Hey y'all. So it's after season. I'm working up fur, right? Putting things up. I'm getting ready to flesh some stuff. And I've got the way I do it is, when I skin, I put my furs in a grocery bag, Walmart bag, ice bag, individually, and freeze them. So then after the season, when I've got a little bit more time, then I'll go through and flesh them, stretch them, or whatever I'm going to do with them. And so to start with, if you've seen some of my older videos, you know, I've fleshed with a pressure washer some, and man, that works really well. The one thing that I like about fleshing with the pressure washer is once you get all the flesh off, the hide side, you can flip that hide around, slip it back on your beam, and back off a little bit and kind of wash that fur out. It works really well, and your fur, it just works good at getting the mud and the blood and things out. I'm fleshing more with a knife this year, and so that's what I'm doing right now. Is I just gave a little bit of Dawn. Some folks will put in like Woolite or something like that, but my solution here is not even sudsy. But I got a couple of foxes in here that you know, typically foxes and a coyote. When you dispatch them, they bleed a lot, and then especially with these gray foxes, little thin neck gray foxes, you nick that vein on their you know, their neck, and they're gonna bleed as you're skinning them. So I give him a look, and overall he's looking pretty good. So I just kind of squeegee the water out as I pull him out. And all I did here is I just filled this. You see, I got a bucket and I got this big tub here, and I just filled it like halfway up, and I'll put these furs in here. I thaw them in a cooler, and so usually, you know, it'll take a couple days, but they thaw slowly, and I'll thaw a bunch of them, and that way, you know, typically I'll have the 2 or 3 kind of on top are the ones that'll thaw the first, and so that gives me a few that I can work through each day, and I just kind of keep replenishing my supply as long as I know I'm going to have the time. And so I just put a little water in here. I throw them in here, and then kind of swirl them around a little bit. Let them sit while I'm off doing something else. Try to let that, you know, if there's mud or blood, let that water soak in and kind of loosen it up, and then just do the same thing. And so this gray fox, then I kind of do it in stages because I want them to dry off some. And so I'll kind of squeegee the water out, and then I'll hang them up on my board over here, and I'll just leave them there to dry for the time while I'm fleshing other stuff. And so that's what I'm doing. Got this red fox here, and I'm not putting this red fox up. I'm not selling a red fox for $7, so I'll be tanning him. And so that's what, you know, some of the stuff I'm putting up, I'm drying. If I know it's something that I'm going to get tanned, I've got you can buy the big sacks of salt from a feed store. You just want the white salt. Sometimes they'll have like a brownish salt, but you don't want that. You just want the white stock salt. And I keep a big Rubbermaid tote full of it. You buy it in 50 pounds, and I just dump 1 or 2 in there and then use it up, and as it gets low, I'll dump another in there. So I know I'm going to have it tanned. Most tanneries will accept salted items. They'll accept dried too, but salted is a little bit easier to deal with because you can you can roll it up and fit it. If you haven't shipped a lot of stuff, I find that the flat rate post office boxes are about the best, most economical way to ship. And the medium and large flat rate boxes, especially if you just got a few furs, that medium is probably going to work perfect. But even with the larger one, I shipped a bunch of stuff last year to get tanned, including a couple deer hides. And I thought maybe I tried it out, putting everything in one box, weighed it, and it actually worked out to be cheaper because it was, I don't know, it was over $100 I think to ship one large box. And I was able to fit all of that stuff into 3 large flat rate boxes, and those usually run about $20. So it cost me $60 to ship in 3 flat rate boxes. So that's what I find is works out the easiest most of the time for me. If you're shipping, you always want to ship on a Monday so the stuff doesn't get hung up over the weekend, even if it is salted, just for peace of mind. But salted is easier to handle. With dried fur, you know, it's going to be long and stiff a lot of times, and so you can bend it, but it's just easier to handle salted. So, but I know this red fox is going to be, and I'll just, you know, there's a little bit of blood here on the head, and it's not crucial, especially if you're going to have it tanned. But I just like to work out as much as I can while you know, before I put it all up. But like this Red Fox, I know I'm gonna salt it. So as soon as I get it, it's not gonna take much fleshing. As soon as I get it off the fleshing beam and dry it a little bit, I'm just gonna throw it right in there, salt it, and then the best thing to do is, especially with water and stuff in it, the best thing you can do is if you can kind of set it somewhere where it'll drain. I set mine usually in a cooler, and I'll try to set the cooler with the drain hole, and I'll kind of set it on a slant, because that salt will draw the moisture out, obviously, and then if you've just rinsed it, you may still have a little bit of water in the fur, so that's going to drain out too. So I'll salt it, let it sit a couple days, let it drain, take it out, shake it off, shake all that old salt off, and then re-salt it good with some fresh salt. And usually that's, after that, it's good, most of the moisture's out, and then it's ready to ship or ready to do whatever. So that's what'll happen to this guy for sure. And I'm still weighing out what I'm gonna do with some of my other stuff. Squeegee them out. Another way to get moisture out, it works better once they're mostly dry, but you can take them and pop them. Like I said, it works better once they're mostly dry. That's a good way to just pop them like a wet towel. And that's a good way to get some of the excess moisture out too. Hang him up, and I'll do the same thing with my coons. Some of them, you know, I caught a bunch in those cubbies, and you know, there's no need to do anything with those. They're not bloody or anything unless you got them a little bloody or muddy while you was skinning them. And actually, all of these look pretty darn good, so I don't think there's any need. And of course, that's all the better when you're putting them up, if you don't have to worry about washing them. And these, on my coons, you know, the market's not great right now on my coons. I'm trying to kind of high grade as I go along, and if I got any small ones, because most of my coons this year were pretty well furred. If I got small ones that I know, I mean, the bigger ones aren't selling for that much, so I know my smaller ones aren't going to go for much. Those are the ones, the two that I'll throw in the salt bucket, salt them, and then I'll wind up tanning them and trying to do something different with them. But while we still got a little bit of daylight left, I'll try to get a couple on the fleshing beam and show you what I'm working on. My fleshing beam here, this is actually a 6-inch large PVC pipe that's cut in half long ways and then kind of tapered at the end, and it gives you a nice curve. I used to have one that was wood, but I swapped to this one. A guy actually in our Trappers Association made some and brought them to the auction, and so they auctioned off like 6, and I wound up getting one at the auction. But it works especially good for that pressure washer, because you don't have to worry about it getting wet or anything. And my knife, I'm using a Necker knife. The good thing about these is 2-bladed. So you got the inside. I don't know if you can really see it or not, but this inside is a rounded edge. So it's just, if you can see it right there, I mean, it's flat. It's kind of rounded, but it's got a nice wide surface. So that's more for pushing, you know, raccoons, muskrats, thin-skinned, or on the belly. A lot of the belly of even beavers and raccoons is you can get away with just pushing. But then this outside edge is a sharp edge. And that's ideal if you're going to be doing beavers, otters, or even raccoons. You get around the shoulders and it gets real gristly, because you can actually take that edge and slice as you're pushing down and bust through that gristle and fat and get it down as far as you need to. So it's really tough on those hard gristly parts to get any kind of traction or momentum with that soft edge or that rounded edge. So here we go. I got my coon. He's not super fatty. You can see a little bit of fat around kind of the hind quarters. That's usually where you'll see a lot of it, and on the belly. The back is pretty clean, but I'm just going to start here, and you're just working. Some of this stuff you can get by pushing, and then that's what I'm going for. I don't know if you can see that, how well you can see that contrast, but that white color right there is the hide. That's what we're going for. We don't want to go through that, but that's what we want to get everything down to, is that nice pretty white color. And you can see I'm kind of using that crossways action to kind of cut through some of this, because you get some of this kind of membrane, a little bit of flesh membrane. And that's where something like, you know, using that sharp blade really shines in pushing through that. And you see I've got a nice heavy duty apron on. This fat is, if you use it on your clothes, it's gonna seep in, and man, you'll never get that smell out of your clothes. So just know that up front. I usually try to use some old junky clothes for fleshing anyway. But you definitely can, and this is not super sharp. I've never sharpened it, and you can see it's doing the job, but it's not impossible to slice right through that hide and put a hole in it where you don't want it to be. If you hear all that fluttering, that's my resident vultures. I think they're kind of upset with me because I ain't been feeding them too much lately since the season went out. I'm just going to kind of breeze through this because since we're losing light, but you can kind of see, you can see what we're going for, that nice pretty white. So this is, once you get around to the belly, that's where you really got to be careful. If it's a female, she'll have the nipples coming up. It's an easy place to cut. And then on males, you'll have the area where the penis was. On coons, you're going to cut a window anyway, so you don't have to worry about that because you're going to cut that off anyway. So I don't get too strung up right like that, but keep in mind, like this between these front legs is very tender. So it's a place where you can use that curved edge and push and get pretty much what you want. And I don't know, I'll try to do this again when I got better light and more time, but I don't know if you can see kind of the difference. I've got my nice white fur here, and we got a little streak here and a streak here of the fat, and you can see kind of where. So I got another little streak there, and so as you're fleshing it down, you just watch for those. Those places are real easy to push right through and get right off, and kind of trim it down to what you're looking for. And then I'll also use the leg holes, especially on long stuff. Use the leg holes to get things moved up a little bit closer to you so you can work on them easier. You can see that dull side is pushing this stuff very nicely. Granted, I know this ain't as fatty of a coon as a lot of you probably Midwestern corn belt folks catch, but pretty representative of our coons down here in the South. I'm gonna get this guy knocked out, and then I'll show you how I board him as well. That's what I'm talking about. That's where the penis was, and there's a little bit of fat there, but I'm going to cut around that so I don't get too hung up on that. You can also see where the nipples are. On the females especially, those will be a little bit more easy to tear through. They can be. These, if you catch them with that knife blade, they definitely will. And there's always, you see I put a nice hole in them there, skinning. If you're not careful, you'll wind up with a big chunk of fat, or meat, I mean, rather, right there around the ears. So I always try to get that off. That's what you're trying to get, is any of this fat or meat off, so that air can get through and adequately dry this hide. You got a big patch of meat or fat, the meat not so much, but the fat, it may still dry the fur underneath it, but it may take longer to dry, and the fur may actually slip in that spot because of it. That's why you're trying to get all this off, so that this hide where I guess the hair follicles are affixed to can dry. If that'll air dry in a quick enough time, then that hair is kind of set in, I guess, and won't slip. But if you leave a little patch of fat or meat on there and it doesn't dry in time, then that area is going to slip and your hide's going to be worth a lot less. All right, welcome to the fur shed. I got my coon, just got through with the one today. I'm gonna go ahead and stretch him. You see I've got some furs that I finished. I got some more furs hanging. All these are coons, but the bulk of my catch, so that's what I'm working through mainly. I use these, let me get this coon off the board. I use these kind of modified wire stretchers. So, and I don't even know what number these wire stretchers are. I got them, most all my stretchers I got from auctions, convention auctions, and I don't know why, but it seems like most of the donations, it seems like folks bring because they don't, it's old junk that they don't want to use anymore. So I hate when stuff's not selling and try to throw a bit in there, and so I wound up a lot of times with stuff that I really ain't crazy about. But I did pick up, I have through the years picked up some of these stretchers and modified them to use them. So that's what we're getting. That's what you're looking at. Got a couple places where I didn't quite get all of the fat off. Definitely could have improved a little bit on this one. So what I'll do is I'll just take and wipe it down. Wipe them down real good, and then hang him up. And you're looking for I don't know if you can hear that or not. You're looking for kind of that papery sound. One place you always want to watch is these front legs as they're drying. If you leave those front legs too long, they'll hang down or hang up, whichever, and it can cause them to not dry properly right under that armpit, and you'll get slippage there. So as I'm going through them, I'll hang them up either belly to belly, back to back. I always keep, I got it off right now, but I always keep a fan circulating air in my fur shed to try to make sure they get dried out timely and don't wait too long. You can see I got my wire stretchers here with this. This is just a 1x8 that I cut down. I think I cut some as 12 and some as 16-inch lengths. The 16-inch lengths seem to do better. Gives you a little more flexibility. But then you can see these move freely up and down. And I got a video that I posted on in the past on how I made these. But that kind of lets you adjust and kind of get some stretch to your fur, but not overstretch it. And so all I'll do is I'll take my fleshed hide, slip him on. This isn't a giant coon by any means, but I'll slip him on this stretcher, kind of pull him down. And I don't worry about pulling things too snug because I know as I hang it's going to take care of that. So I'll kind of pull him down. The benefit to the wood, and I don't know how much it really matters to the buyer, honestly. I was actually looking at, and I've never sold to Groenwald, but I was looking on their website the other day, and I just use nails to tack this thing out. I'll pleat the raccoon, so here at the bottom, I'll put my nail in and I'll kind of pull it together. So you got a little, it kind of bunches the fur up just a little bit at the base. You don't want to bunch it up, over bunch it, but I never honestly had an issue with that. But I was looking at Groenwald, and they say that they, all their coons they put up on wire stretchers, and but they're selling to the end buyer. They are the end user. They are the buyer. So I guess if they've got a customer that's comfortable with the sizes and their grading, then I guess it's not a concern. But if you're shipping to somewhere like NAFA and you've got graders, grading the fur, and then the buyers trusting what the graders have to say, and the buyers don't know the graders, and I can definitely see where that's an issue. Raccoon is pretty darn straightforward. The trickier ones are fox and bobcat and coyotes that are fur out, because typically you want to board those fur in initially to make sure that the outside gets started drying or gets dry, and then but you don't want to over dry it because that makes flipping it harder. That's a tough line to walk. And I've got a stretcher that I kind of adjusted to try to see if I get a wire stretcher that I modified. So then I flip it over. So I've got the back. What I was going at earlier. With a wooden board, you can get a uniform all the way across at the base of the tail. And so when they measure from nose to the base of the tail, it's consistent across the board. If you were just using the hooks that are on wire stretchers, then the hooks right here in the tail, and it just pulls down, and so your base of your fur is going to be at an angle like that. And so, then where do you measure? Do you measure to the end? Do you measure to up here? Do you measure in the middle? And I guess that's where, from a NAFA perspective, they want it to be uniform, and that's how they're going to grade it, so their buyers know what they're getting. So that's why I like the wire, just for drying sake, especially like I said, I used to do all of mine in the past, and I still will do some of mine pressure washed, and typically I try to wash my blood and mud out anyway, so I like the wire and not having to worry about the fur souring or anything from being wet. So that's it. So what I'll do is I just got, see on the belly side now, I'm going to come in and I'm going to cut me a window right here just above. Like I said, I'm going to take that penis area out. Knives need a good sharpening. So you can see it opened it up, made a little bit bigger viewing area right there. When I say window, that's what I'm talking about. Then I'm going to kind of square the hide up on the stretcher itself. And then I've got some hooks hanging from my ceiling, and I've got a little D-ring with a hook with a clip on it, and I'll just see that I just hang it up from the bottom, try to give it a good pull and snug it down. But of course, I mean the fur itself is, the hide itself has only got so much stretch, so it usually adjusts a little bit itself. And then that's all there is. With wire, you don't have to worry about belly boards or anything like that. I will say, I've got some solid basswood boards. Pretty much all of my foxes, otters, everything like that, I put up on a solid board. And the basswood, I made some in the past, but man, the basswood with just push pins makes life so easy because you can pop them in and out. You don't have to worry about hammering things in. That's what, with this pine that I use on these, I had to, hammer the nails in and pull the nails out. So the basswood stretchers are really nice if you're going all wood. But I got, I don't know, probably 30 more coons to flesh. I'm just kind of getting started on all this, so 30 more coons, and like I said before, Groenewald is going to come through Georgia, as well as there will be a NAFA pickup in Georgia, and I'm on the fence. I'm putting up, most of my coons, the better coons, just because I don't 44 tan coons, but I'm definitely going to tan a little bit of everything I caught this year. May try to sell some tan fur. If any of y'all want to support the southern fur market, if I get some fur tanned, probably will try to have some tan fur for sale, just wall hangers. Like I said, I got a couple other projects and stuff in mind I'm going to try to be doing with my leather and my fur as well. So picked up a industrial sewing machine for use with my leather and also with my trapping bags. So I plan on posting a video this week of my trapping bags. I am no seamstress, I guess you could say. The sewing machine has been a serious learning curve, but I think I've got things kind of sorted out and figured out. I can sew it and put things together, but the stitches don't look great, but I think I got that sorted out. But I'm pretty excited. I've been getting some questions and stuff, and my bag, I used the bag all this year that I made and I designed, and definitely a couple of things that I'm adjusting, going into what my production model, I guess you could say. But like I said, hopefully I plan on making a video later on this week, posting that with my bag, and probably what I'll do is try to take some pre-orders and give a discount for anybody that orders beforehand, and then I can work on filling those orders, and then after that, hopefully by midsummer I'll have some bags up and running, ready to sell, and may try to have a booth at least at the Georgia convention. I'm definitely planning on coming to the national convention in Springfield. Won't have a booth there, but just going to try to go out there and I've never been to a big national. I've been to some of the regionals, and so I think that's going to be a pretty neat experience, and just kind of meet some folks and just take it all in, and hopefully do some videos, some interviews, and post some things out there. So if you're going to be in Springfield, definitely holler at me, message me something. I'd love to see any of y'all that are out there watching, and otherwise stay tuned. I'll be doing a few more videos on as I'm processing fur and putting it up, and then like I said, look later this week for my trapping bag, and hope y'all are getting some good prices or getting your fur ready to sell. It's been a mixed bag. If y'all watched my last podcast, it's I don't know. I'm looking other ways other than the fur market to try to do something with. And I think that's pretty exciting. I'm excited about that. So anyway, y'all have a good evening. We'll talk to you later.